A storm in the half-cabin trip had given them a momentary breath of peace, but life, in its unpredictable way, always seemed to return with a storm just when the sun began to shine again. Amelia and Owen returned to Portland with their souls a little lighter, but something else had followed them home, something unseen, silent, and brewing. 3 nights after their return, Owen woke up gasping. Amelia jolted awake beside him. "Owen, what's wrong?" He couldn't speak. He clutched at his chest, his breath short and erratic. His entire body was trembling, and the cold sweat soaked his shirt. His eyes, wide with fear, searched for her like a man drowning. Amelia didn't hesitate. She grabbed the emergency medication kit, injected the muscle relaxant the doctor had prescribed for acute CRPS attacks, and dialed 911 with trembling fingers. "It's okay, baby. I'm right here," she whispered as sirens echoed in the distance. "Just hold on." The paramedics arrived within minutes. Owen was wheeled out of their apartment unconscious, an oxygen mask strapped to his face. At the hospital, Amelia sat in the sterile waiting room, her hands clenched around a rosary that once belonged to her mother. Even though she wasn't religious, she just needed something to hold, something to anchor her. Dr. Yara, Owen's neurologist, approached her quietly after an hour. He had a severe autonomic response triggered by nerve pain. His heart rate spiked to dangerous levels. "He's stable now, but we're admitting him for monitoring." Amelia nodded slowly. "Is this going to keep happening?" Dr. Yara sighed. "CRPS is unpredictable. The progress he made by standing at the wedding, it likely aggravated the dormant nerve damage. His nervous system is overloaded. We need to consider stronger pain management, possibly a spinal stimulator implant." Amelia swallowed hard. "Will he walk again?" The doctor looked at her kindly. "Right now, we need to focus on keeping him safe. Functional mobility can come later if at all." Owen stayed in the hospital for a week. He refused visitors except for Amelia. Even then, he barely spoke. He stared at the ceiling most days, his green eyes dulled with defeat. Amelia sat beside him, holding his hand through the long silences. She didn't try to force him to talk. She just stayed. On the 4th night, he finally broke the silence. "I feel like I gave you false hope." She turned to him sharply. "Owen, I stood on our wedding day, and now I can't even sit up without help. It's like I flew too close to the sun." She moved closer, brushing the hair from his forehead. "You didn't give me false hope. You gave me the most honest thing in the world, a moment of love, courage, and truth. That moment didn't promise perfection. It promised us, but what kind of husband can't even?" "Stop," she said gently. "You're my husband. That means everything to me. You've never been less because of what you can't do. You've always been more because of who you are." His eyes filled, and for the first time since the attack, he cried, not from pain, but from the overwhelming weight of feeling truly seen. The next day, a woman named Dr. Priya Verma visited Owen's room. She was a renowned pain specialist, originally from India, now working on a new integrative pain clinic in Portland. Amelia had reached out to her through one of the online CRPS support groups. She sat beside Owen's bed with a clipboard and a kind smile. "You've been through more than most," she said. "But I believe we can find a new path forward. Not just medically, but emotionally." Owen listened, half interested, until she said something that caught his attention. "I've seen cases like yours improve not just through medicine, but through a sense of purpose." "Purpose?" he asked hoarsely. "Yes, when the body is broken, the mind must carry more weight. But if the mind has something to fight for, something to create, it can do incredible things." Owen stared at her. "And what do you suggest? I become a motivational speaker?" Dr. Verma smiled softly. "Maybe. Or maybe you write your story." That night, Owen pulled out his journal for the first time in weeks. He started slowly, just scribbles, fragments, feelings. But over the next few days, words poured out of him were dam-breaking. He wrote about his fall from the scaffolding, the years of isolation, the day he met Amelia in the rain, and the moment he stood for her. He wrote about the pain, the shame, the love, and the war inside him and Amelia. She started filming small clips of their daily life together, his therapy sessions, their quiet dinners, their shared laughs. With his permission, she posted a short video online titled, "He Stood For Me on Our Wedding Day. Our True Story of Love, Pain, and Hope." The video exploded. Within days, hundreds of thousands of views poured in. Messages flooded their inbox. People who had CRPS, spouses of paraplegics, caregivers, lovers, survivors. One comment stood out. "I was ready to give up today. Then I watched this. Thank you for reminding me what love can look like." Encouraged, Amelia created a YouTube channel, Still Standing. She posted Owen's journal entries as blog posts. She recorded their raw, unfiltered conversations about fear, love, and pain. She interviewed his doctors and therapists, and Owen. He began to heal not just physically, but emotionally. Dr. Verma guided them through a new treatment plan involving non-opioid therapies, neural retraining, and meditation. It wasn't a miracle cure. The pain still came. But Owen began to live around the pain, not beneath it. He spoke at a local CRPS awareness event, reading his journal entry titled, "The Day I Stood For Her." The audience wept, people stood and clapped, not out of pity, but out of profound respect. Afterward, a young woman approached him in tears. "My fiance's CRPS," she said. "He thinks I'll leave him, that I'll get tired of it all." Owen smiled gently. "Then show him what love really looks like. Love isn't about waiting for the pain to end. It's about holding each other through the worst of it." One evening, as Amelia cooked dinner, Owen wheeled over to her with a grin. "I have a surprise," he said. She turned, curious. "Oh no, not another standing attempt," he laughed. "Nope. I'm done with the dramatic reveals. This one's simpler." He handed her a letter. Inside was an acceptance form. He had been invited to publish a memoir, based on his journal and blog posts, titled, "Still Standing, A Story of Love Without Limits." Amelia's eyes widened. "Owen, that's amazing. I want to dedicate it to you," he said. "To the woman who held me when I couldn't hold myself." She leaned down and kissed his forehead. "I'm so proud of you." He looked up at her, full of awe. "I never thought my pain would have a purpose, but maybe it does." But fate wasn't done testing them. One morning, Amelia fainted at work. She was rushed to the hospital. Owen arrived in a cab, panicked and breathless, demanding to know what had happened. The doctors assured him it was likely exhaustion, but they wanted to run a few more tests. After 2 hours, Dr. Yara returned with cautious eyes. "We've found something in her blood work. It may be nothing, but we need to investigate further." Owen felt the air leave the room. Not her. Please, not her. 4 months. She had carried him through his storm. Now, he feared she might be stepping into one of her own. And for the first time since their wedding day, Owen felt powerless again. When roles reverse, love remains. The walls of the hospital hallway never looked so tall, so narrow, so unforgiving. Owen sat in his wheelchair outside room 214, staring at the floor as time passed in slow motion. His hands, once bruised from lifting himself during recovery, now gripped the wheels tightly, this time from helplessness, not strength. Amelia was behind those doors. The woman who had stood beside him when his world collapsed. The woman who had believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. The woman who gave so much of herself that she had nothing left to hold back for her own body. And now she was the one lying in a hospital bed. It didn't feel real. The same doctor who had delivered bad news to Owen so many times was now speaking words he never thought he'd hear about Amelia. "There's an abnormality in her white blood cell count," Dr. Yara explained gently. "It could be a viral reaction, but there's also a chance it's something more serious. Possibly early-stage lymphoma." Owen blinked. Lymphoma. We're not jumping to conclusions, the doctor added quickly. We're ordering a biopsy, but we need to prepare for both outcomes. Owen sat motionless. Can I see her? She's resting. But yes. Go in. The room was quiet, filled only with the low hum of machines and the gentle rhythm of Amelia's breathing. She looked pale, her skin missing the warmth it usually carried. Her hands were still, fingers resting over her stomach, as if protecting something unseen. Owen wheeled closer and reached out to take her hand. It was cold. He lifted it to his lips and kissed it gently. You're the strong one now, she murmured. Without opening her eyes, he let out a trembling laugh. You've always been the strong one. Her eyes fluttered open. Don't do that. Don't reverse everything. You're not just strong when I'm weak. Owen, you've always been strong. It's okay for me to fall too. He looked at her, tears in his eyes. I can't. I don't know how to do this without you. You won't have to. She whispered. I'm not going anywhere. You and I were made of tougher things than cancer. The word hung in the air between them like smoke. Owen nodded slowly. Then we fight it, together. She squeezed his hand. That's all I need. The next few weeks were a blur of hospital visits, blood tests, biopsies, and long nights of waiting. The official diagnosis came back. Stage 1 Hodgkin's lymphoma. It was early. It was treatable. But it would still be a mountain to climb. Chemotherapy was scheduled to begin within the week. Amelia took the news with her usual grace, calm, accepting, quietly courageous. Owen, however, spiraled in silence. He began waking up at 4 a.m. again. Not to train, not to write, but to clean, to research, to organize every drawer in their apartment. He didn't tell Amelia, but he cried in the shower every morning, trying to keep her world together while his felt like it was falling apart on the outside. He played the part of the calm caregiver. On the inside, he was drowning in guilt. She spent months carrying me, he whispered one night to Dr. Verma, who had become a trusted confidant. And now when she needs me most, I feel so small, so incapable. You feel that because you love her deeply, Dr. Verma said. Not because you're failing her, but what if I'm not enough? She looked at him with a softness that only someone who had seen years of human pain could possess. Then you do what she did. For you, you hold her hand, you remind her of the light. You sit beside her, even in the dark. Amelia started her chemotherapy 2 days later. Owen was by her side for every infusion. He brought books, he brought playlists, he brought hope. When her hair began to fall, he held the mirror. When the nausea hit, he stayed awake through the night, rubbing her back. When her laughter faded, he told her stories from his past, stories she had never heard before, of childhood dreams, old failures, and the loneliness he never shared until now. One night, after a particularly difficult chemo session, Amelia looked at him and whispered, "You know what I miss most?" He shook his head gently, dancing. He chuckled. "We never even danced at our wedding." "I know. But I always imagined what it would be like, holding you, moving slowly, even if just for a moment." He was quiet for a long time. Then he wheeled himself toward the speaker on the shelf and pressed play on a song, a soft piano track they both loved. He positioned himself beside her, lifted her hand, and whispered, "Then let's imagine it now." They didn't move much. Just sat together, her hand in his, swaying slightly in rhythm with the music. But in that moment, it was a waltz of the soul. Inspired by Amelia's strength, Owen returned to writing. But this time, not about himself. He began documenting her journey, her strength, her quiet determination. He wrote blog posts titled "When the Caregiver Needs Care" and "Love is the Strongest Medicine." Their YouTube channel began to transform. It wasn't just about Owen's disability anymore, it was about their shared journey through adversity. How love evolves when roles reverse. How strength takes many forms. People resonated. Thousands of comments flooded in. My wife was my caregiver for 5 years. This made me sob. Thank you for showing the truth. Watching your story gave me the courage to start my chemo with hope instead of fear. Amelia, even in her weakest days, read every message. She would smile softly, sometimes cry, but always say the same thing. If our pain helps someone else feel less alone, then it's worth it. One afternoon, as Amelia sat resting on the couch wrapped in a blanket, Owen wheeled in with a canvas in his lap. "What's this?" she asked, eyes lighting up. "I'd help," he said, revealing a painting, a simple, hand-painted image of two people holding hands under a tree, one in a wheelchair, the other bald from treatment, surrounded by rays of golden light. The words beneath the image read, "When one of us can't walk, the other carries." Tears filled Amelia's eyes. "Owen, it's beautiful. It's our story," he said. "And it's not over yet." The days blurred into weeks. Amelia's strength waned, then slowly began to return. The chemo took its toll, but it worked. By the end of her 4th cycle, her lymph nodes had shrunk significantly. By the 6th, her doctors smiled when they read the scans. Remission. It was a word neither of them had dared hope for out loud. When Amelia rang the hospital bell to mark her final chemo session, Owen wheeled forward, holding a bouquet of white lily and a ring box. Everyone turned. Amelia blinked. "Owen, we're already married." "I know," he said, "but I want to propose again. Not because we need another ceremony, but because I want to re-choose you. After everything we've endured, I want to say it again. I do." Tears streamed down Amelia's face. "Then I do too." That night, under soft fairy lights on their apartment balcony, they renewed their vows in private. No guests, no altar, just the sound of the city around them and their voices, trembling but full. "I vow," Owen said, "to keep showing up, even when I'm tired, even when it's hard. I vow," Amelia replied, "to believe in us even when the road is steep." They kissed under the stars, both changed, both scarred, but stronger than they had ever been. They had walked through fire together. And they were still standing. Still standing. The World Needs to Hear This Spring had returned to Portland, painting the city in soft greens and bursts of color. The air was crisp but no longer cold, and for the first time in a long while, the scent of blooming lilacs drifted through Amelia and Owen's apartment, bringing with it a sense of renewal neither of them had dared dream of during the darkest nights. Amelia's hair had just begun to grow back, soft as down and curly at the edges. Owen had started standing again, though with help, and only for brief moments. But these days, neither of them measured progress in inches or energy. They measured it in presence. In laughter during breakfast, in silent hands held during sunsets, in the way they had learned to simply exist together. No pretenses, no masks, just love. The YouTube channel, still standing, had become more than a platform. It was now a movement. Their story had touched hearts far beyond what they ever imagined. People from all corners of the globe were writing in, some sharing similar battles with illness or disability. Others just thankful for a reminder that love like theirs still existed. One morning, an email came in with a blue check mark and a CNN.com domain. Amelia read it 3 times before calling out, "Owen, you need to see this." It was an invitation. They were being asked to appear on a national television show, Voices of Hope. A special segment aired monthly, featuring real-life couples whose stories had inspired millions. Owen stared at the screen, stunned. "Yes," Amelia smiled softly, "because we survived. Because we loved loudly when life tried to silence us." The flight to New York was donated by the network. A car met them at the airport. A stylist and makeup artist waited at the hotel. Amelia looked radiant in a pale blue dress, and Owen wore a tailored charcoal blazer over his chair, his legs gently strapped for comfort, braces hidden beneath press slacks. As they rolled into the backstage studio area, Owen's nerves rose. His palms were damp, his heart racing. "You okay?" Amelia asked, placing her hand on his arm. I've faced surgeries, therapy, even a building fall. But this, he gave a shaky smile. This is terrifying. She leaned down and kissed his cheek. Then let's be terrified together. The lights flashed, the cameras rolled, and soon they were on stage, seated beside the host Vanessa Dale, a graceful woman known for her compassion as much as her poise. Vanessa smiled warmly. Owen, Amelia, the world has watched your journey with awe. From the moment Owen stood at your wedding, to the hospital stays, to your fight through cancer. Tell us, what has love taught you? Owen looked at Amelia. That love isn't about rescuing someone. It's about standing in the storm with them even when your own legs give out. Amelia nodded. And that pain doesn't mean your story is over. Sometimes, it means a new chapter is about to begin. Vanessa blinked, clearly moved. You've redefined what it means to fight. What it means to hope. The segment aired across the country. Within 48 hours, their subscriber base doubled. Major news outlets picked up the story. Amelia and Owen were asked to speak at conferences, schools, even a medical symposium, but it wasn't the fame that changed their lives. It was the letters. A woman in Mumbai wrote, I lost my husband to cancer. Watching you two made me believe love doesn't die, it just takes new shapes. A father in Argentina wrote, my son was born with muscular dystrophy. I was angry at the world. You helped me see his life not as limited, but as unique. Teenager in Germany said, I was going to end my life. Then I watched your video. I cried. I stayed. Thank you. Owen and Amelia printed every letter. They kept them in a large scrapbook titled Proof of Light. One night, as they sat rereading them under fairy lights, Amelia whispered, we didn't just survive, Owen, we became someone else's reason to keep going. 6 months later, they were invited to speak at an international summit on resilience and love, hosted in Vienna. It would be their biggest audience yet, thousands in person, millions watching online. It was also the first time Owen planned to walk onto the stage. He'd been practicing quietly, working with a new physical therapist, strengthening his upper body and building stability with a lightweight exoskeleton system. The night before the summit, he told Amelia his plan. She stared at him, stunned. You're going to walk on stage? He nodded, not to impress, just to remind them that we can always stand again. Even after everything, tears welled in her eyes. Even after everything. The day arrived. The grand hall was magnificent. Gilded chandeliers, rows upon rows of expectant faces, cameras rolling from every angle. Amelia took the stage first, wheeling herself forward as a nod to all the times Owen had gone first for her. She told their story with poise and heart, not as a fairy tale but as truth. When she finished, the crowd stood in thunderous applause. Then, the host introduced Owen. Silence fell. The curtains parted, and from the shadows, he emerged slowly, carefully, standing upright in a black support exosuit beneath his suit. The audience gasped. Each step was shaky, but each step was his. The closer he came to Amelia, the more her tears flowed. He reached her side. She stood, too, and together, they stood side by side, holding hands, like they had done when the world was at its darkest. The crowd erupted. People wept, reporters dropped their notepads. Children watching at home cheered. Owen raised his hand and spoke. I walked for her on our wedding day. Today, I walk for all of you, because even when life tries to take your legs, it can never take your will. After the summit, a new door opened. A publisher offered a deal for a joint memoir. Amelia and Owen agreed on one condition. The book would include not only their voices, but excerpts from people around the world who had been touched by their story. The book would be called Love Stands Tall, a story of two souls and 1,000 hearts. When it launched, it soared to bestseller lists in multiple countries. It wasn't just a book, it was a movement. Hospitals used it as therapeutic reading. Schools included chapters in their emotional wellness curriculum. Marriage counselors gifted it to couples navigating loss or trauma. And Amelia and Owen, they didn't move into a mansion or disappear into luxury. They bought a small home in the countryside, where they could host retreats for couples facing chronic illness or trauma. They called it the Lighthouse. Because, as Owen said, we're not here to save anyone, just to shine enough light for them to see their own way. Years passed. The hair Amelia once lost grew back thicker. The chair Owen once depended on now rested unused in a corner, still there, just in case, but no longer his whole world. They still had bad days. Days when pain or fatigue won. Days when silence sat heavy. But they faced them the way they faced everything together. One evening, on the porch of the lighthouse, watching the sun melt behind the hills, Amelia whispered, "Do you think people will remember us?" Owen smiled, lacing his fingers through hers. "They already do. Not because we were perfect, but because we didn't stop loving, even when it hurt."